Zariah walked alone through the dark forest, her silver eyes scanning the sky above. The stars looked different tonight, brighter, louder, as if they were whispering secrets to her. She was not supposed to be out this late, but something had called her. Something strange. A sound had fallen from the sky like thunder, but deeper. More alive. She had never seen a human, only heard stories. The elders said humans were dangerous. Liars, destroyers of worlds. Long ago, the war had ended with Earth's fall. And her people, the Varelians, had won. Humans were wiped out, or so everyone believed. But now, something had landed near her village. Zariah was curious, too curious. She followed the noise into the trees, her cloak dragging behind her. She reached the crash site, hidden in a crater of black smoke and broken metal. It was a small ship, not Varelian, not anything she recognized. As the smoke cleared, she saw him, a figure. Lying on the ground, burned, bleeding, but alive. He was human. No doubt brown hair, soft skin, and strange clothing. He groaned, opening one eye. Looking directly at her. "Zariah," he whispered. She stepped back, heart pounding. "How do you know my name?" she asked, her voice shaking. He tried to sit up but failed. Coughing hard. You're her. "You're the one we sent," he said. Barely able to speak, Zariah felt cold. This man knew her name, claimed she was sent. But that made no sense. She was born here, on Varel, raised by the elders. She had never left the planet, never even seen a human before today. "You must help me," he said. "They'll come for me. And for you too." She hesitated, then quickly hid him behind a rock as patrol ships passed overhead. Her mind was racing. Why was she helping him? Why was he here? When the ships left, she turned to him. "You have 10 seconds to tell me the truth," she said, trying to sound brave. He looked at her with tired eyes. "You're not just Varelian." "Zariah," he said. "There's something inside you, something we left behind." She froze inside me. "What are you talking about, human?" He coughed again, pulling out a small device from his pocket. It glowed blue and made a soft humming sound when it came near her. To her horror, a mark on her arm began to glow in return. She had never seen it light up before, not in her entire life. What is this?" she whispered, touching the glowing skin. "It's a memory lock," the human said. "We placed it in you when you were just a baby, hidden among them. So one day, you could remember who you truly are." Zariah shook her head. No, I was born here. I am Varelian." The human's voice was soft. "Then why does your body react to Earth tech?" She had no answer. Her mind felt broken. Her past suddenly uncertain. She helped him stand, though his legs were weak. "We need to move," he said. "If they find me, they'll kill me, and if they find you with me, they'll do worse." Zariah nodded, still confused, still afraid. But something inside her whispered that this man was telling the truth. And she had always been different, always felt like she didn't belong. Maybe this was why they moved through the forest. Quiet and fast, behind them, the sky lit up with more patrol ships searching the area. The human Eli, he said his name, was kept glancing at her. As if he had known her forever, Zariah finally asked, "Have we met before?" Eli looked at her sadly. "In another life, maybe," he said. "Or maybe in your dreams." She didn't understand. But she felt it now, deep inside, a flicker of something hidden. A truth waiting to be unlocked. And though she had been told all her life to fear humans, she could not fear him, not when her own blood was glowing like the stars above. End of part 1. Zariah woke with a gasp. Her body was cold, but her skin burned with blue light. She sat up quickly, breathing hard. She wasn't in the forest anymore. They were hiding inside the ruins, an old Varelian outpost, abandoned years ago. Eli was asleep on the floor beside her. His face pale, his wounds worse, but she couldn't focus on him. Not yet. She looked at her arm. The strange mark was still glowing, pulsing softly under her skin like a heartbeat. It didn't feel like a wound. It felt like a signal. "Why is this happening to me?" she whispered to herself. Her memories felt wrong. like someone had painted over them. Flashes of places she had never been. A white sky, a blue ocean, a child's voice calling her name in a language she didn't understand. She stood and looked at Eli. He had answers. He had to. An hour later, when Eli finally opened his eyes, Zariah was already standing over him, her arms crossed, her voice cold. "You said I have something inside me," she said. "Explain now." Eli sat up slowly, his face still filled with pain. "You feel it now, don't you?" he said. "That light on your arm? That's not alien tech, it's human," she frowned. "But I am Varelian." "No, not fully," Eli said. "You're something new, something made during the final days of the war." Zariah felt her knees weaken. Her whole life, she had been told she was pure, loyal, one of the true race, but now the stranger was telling her she was part human? A species her people hated, destroyed, erased from history. What exactly is inside me? She asked again. Voice shaking, Eli reached into his jacket, pulling out a small glass cube. It glowed faintly when he brought it near her. "Inside you is something called an echo core," he said. "It's a living memory device built from both organic and machine cells." She blinked. "You put a machine inside a baby?" "It's not just a machine," Eli said. "It's a part of someone, a piece of a soul." Zariah stepped back. "You're lying," she said. "That sounds like a story, not science." Eli looked straight into her eyes. "You dream of Earth, don't you?" She froze. "How do you know that?" "Because I used to be in those dreams," he said quietly. "I remember holding your hand in the labs, singing to you when the power went out. You were the last child born before the fall of Earth." Zariah felt dizzy. Memories she never lived started to surface. A soft humming song, a woman's voice, a room filled with warm lights. "But that can't be," she whispered. "I was born here, on Varel." "No," Eli said. "You were delivered here, hidden among them. They raised you to believe you were one of them. But inside, the echo core waited, until now." Zariah clutched her head. Everything felt like it was spinning. Who was she really? What was she? Suddenly, the cube in Eli's hand blinked red. His face turned pale. "They've found us," he said. "Your people, they're coming." Zariah looked toward the broken wall of the outpost. She could hear engines in the distance. Flying low, fast, no more time for questions, only choices. "Come with me," Eli said. "If they catch us, they'll rip that thing out of you. And they'll kill me for waking it up." Zariah hesitated. Was she really going to run from her own people? Trust a human? But then she looked at her arm still glowing, her dreams still whispering, and her heart still confused but no longer silent. She grabbed Eli's arm and helped him up. "Where are we going?" she asked. Eli looked into the sky. "To the Icelands," he said. "There's something buried there. Something that will prove who you really are." Zariah said nothing. But deep inside, a voice answered for her, not in words but in feeling, like waking up from a long sleep. And for the first time in her life, she wondered if being Varelian was ever real at all. The cold bit into Zariah's skin like tiny knives. Snow fell in slow silence as she walked across the frozen land. Beside her, Eli limped through the storm, his face pale, but his eyes focused. They had traveled for hours through the night, avoiding Varelian patrols. The mountains ahead were sharp and tall, like white teeth rising from the planet's skin. Beneath them, according to Eli, was the truth. Zariah didn't trust the storm. It felt too quiet, too planned, as if the wind itself was watching. But inside her, something was pulling her forward. The mark on her arm had stopped glowing, but the warmth was still there, like a compass inside her blood. "I need you to tell me everything," she said finally. "No more secrets." Eli nodded, breathing hard. "When Earth was falling, our leaders made a last plan," he said. "We couldn't save the planet, but we could save a future." Zariah looked at him, her voice low. "And I'm that future?" "You were meant to be more than a soldier," he said. "You were meant to be a bridge." A living key that could unlock peace or war. She didn't like the sound of that. She never asked to be part of a plan. She never asked to be anything but herself. They reached the base of the mountain, where jagged rocks formed a wall. Eli pulled a small device from his coat. Pressing it against the stone, a low hum echoed through the air. And part of the wall began to move. Stone and ice shifted like sliding doors, revealing a hidden path. Zariah stepped inside, her breath catching in her throat. It wasn't a cave, it was a tunnel metal. Rusted and old, human design, human. Memory. I remember this, she said softly, even though she had never been here, or had she. They walked through the tunnel, their steps echoing. Lights flickered on as they passed, reacting to her presence. At the end of the hall stood a large chamber, and in the center was a sealed pod. Inside it, frozen in crystal, was a girl. She had silver eyes and black hair. She looked just like Zariah. Zariah's legs gave out, and she fell to her knees. "That's me," she whispered. "That can't be, but it is." Eli stepped forward, eyes full of emotion. "No," he said. "That was the first you. The one who carried the original Echo Core." He touched the glass. "She died during the transfer. But we saved her memories and placed them in a new body, your body." Zariah stared at the frozen girl, her own face, her own eyes. "But not her, not anymore. That means," she whispered, "you weren't just trained to protect us." Eli said, "You were created." Zariah felt like screaming. She wasn't born, she wasn't raised, she was built by people she had never met, for a war she didn't start. "Why me?" she asked, tears in her eyes. Eli knelt beside her. "Because you were the only one who could survive both sides," he said. "You're strong like them, but your heart is still human." She stood slowly, her eyes on the frozen version of herself. "I don't know who I am anymore." Eli looked at her, his voice gentle. "You're whoever you choose to be." The chamber lights dimmed, and the echo core inside her began to pulse again. The frozen girl's hand moved slightly, just a twitch, but enough to be seen. Zariah gasped, "She's still alive." Eli's eyes widened. Then the original core never died. Alarms suddenly blared in the distance. Varelian forces had tracked them. Time was running out. "We have to leave," Eli said. But Zariah was staring at the frozen girl. "What if I can wake her?" "Zariah, if you touch that pod, you might trigger everything." She looked back at him, eyes glowing faint blue. "Maybe it's time," she said, "to find out what I really am." She placed her hand on the glass. The pod glowed bright. And deep inside, something whispered her name, her real name, not Zariah, but Zara, the name Earth gave her before it fell. And that name awakened everything. Asterisk. The moment Zariah touched the glass, the world shifted. Her body froze, but her mind fell inward fast, like falling through a dream. Voices echoed in her ears, not from outside, but from deep inside. A woman's voice, warm and full of sorrow, whispered her name, not Zariah, but Zara. "You were made for more than survival." The voice said, "You were made to remember." She opened her eyes and gasped. The frozen pod was dark again, but something inside her was now awake. "Zariah, no." Zara stumbled back as blue light pulsed beneath her skin. Eli caught her before she fell. "It's happening," he said. "You've triggered the link." She didn't respond. She was hearing things, seeing flashes, memories that weren't hers. Earth cities, people screaming, running, hiding from fire falling from the sky. Then labs, voices, machines, and a baby's cry. Her cry, I saw it. She whispered, "The end of Earth. And my beginning." Eli helped her up, urgency in his voice. "That means the echo core is fully syncing with your mind. You'll start remembering things. Some will feel real, some won't. But all of them are part of you now." Zara turned to the pod, confused, shaken. "What about her?" she asked. "The girl in the crystal?" Eli paused, then said quietly, "She's you, but incomplete. A failed transfer. But her memory stayed locked in the pod. And now it's inside you. Before she could speak, a loud alarm began to echo through the tunnel. Red lights flashed from the ceiling, and the temperature dropped suddenly. They found us, Eli said, pulling her arm. We have to go now. They ran through the tunnel, boots slipping on metal floors, breath clouding in the cold air. Zara's heart pounded not just from fear, but from the storm inside her mind. Voices still whispered, names she didn't know, faces she couldn't forget. As they exited the hidden tunnel, Varelian ships were already descending, sleek, black, and merciless. They will kill you if they find out what you are. L.A. said, you're not just a threat to them. You're a mistake they thought they erased. Zara looked up at the ships, eyes glowing with strange light. Then we don't let them find us. They vanished into the forest, where ice turned to trees. For hours they moved through the shadows, until they reached the old resistance bunker, Eli's safe house, hidden beneath the roots of a dead tree. Inside, lights flickered on, and holograms glowed to life. Old data files from Earth, half-broken maps and dusty equipment surrounded them. Zara walked through it slowly, like touching parts of a life she never lived. Then she heard a beep. Ah! Message playing from an old recorder. It was her voice, but younger. If I forget who I am, find Eli, and remember Earth, the voice said. We are more than memory, we are hope. She turned to him wide-eyed. How long have you known me? Eli's face was unreadable. Since you were created, he said. I was one of the engineers who built the first prototype. You were a child to us. Zara sat down slowly, feeling a mix of grief and anger. I'm not even real. She whispered, you are, Eli said, kneeling beside her. You're the most real thing we ever made. Outside, something beeped again, not a machine, but her own skin. The mark on her arm was blinking rapidly now, a warning. They're scanning for biosigns. Eli said, your energy is like a beacon now. If we stay, they'll find us. Zara stood up, her eyes burning with determination. Then, we don't hide, Eli blinked. What do you mean? We make them chase the wrong trail, she said. We give them a reason to look somewhere else. But if they catch even a glimpse of your Echo Core signature, then they'll see what their own kind tried to bury, she said. And maybe they'll start to question everything. Eli stared at her. You're changing, he said. The more the core sinks, the more like her you become. Zara looked at her reflection in a cracked screen. I don't know who she was, she whispered, but I know who I don't want to be. Suddenly, a noise outside, a snap of a branch, the hum of an engine. They both froze. Varelian scouts were near. Zara took a deep breath. If they caught her, it was over. If they found Eli, he'd be executed. There was no more time to run, only time to fight or surrender to destiny. The ice groaned beneath their feet, not from the weight, but from something alive beneath it. Zara stopped walking, eyes locked on the frozen ground. She could feel it, now not just hear it, but feel it, a heartbeat, coming from below. Here, she said, her voice calm but certain. This is where it sleeps. Ellie checked the coordinates on his scanner. This shouldn't be possible, he whispered. That ship was lost over 100 years ago, buried during the Varelian collapse. Sealed by tectonic shifts. Zara knelt, placing her glowing hand on the ice. It reacted instantly, sending out ripples of light, like the ice itself remembered her. I'm not just carrying memories, she said. I'm carrying a key. The wind howled around them, thick with snow and silence. They stood on top of an ancient secret. Beneath them, buried in crystal frost, was a human stealth vessel. A ship made not to fight, but to hide, and to store something important enough to bury. Zara turned to Eli. Tell me what's inside it. He hesitated. It's not a weapon, he said. It's a message. From the last true human council. Her breath caught. A message? He nodded. Not just words, but minds, memories, voices, plans for rebuilding. They called it the Arc Core. Zara looked down at the ice. Then I need to hear it. She placed both hands on the frozen sheet, her eyes glowing brighter than ever. Lines of blue light formed beneath her fingers. Spreading outward like roots, the ice began to crack, not in destruction, but in design. A perfect circle of frost fell inward, revealing a glass dome beneath. Inside it, the sleek black surface of the Ark ship shimmered, untouched by time. Zira descended first. Using a narrow staircase that hadn't seen light in a century, Eli followed behind, his breath visible in the freezing air. As they entered the core chamber, lights flickered on automatically. The ship recognized her, screens lit up, systems booted. A voice echoed through the chamber, female, clear, and familiar. Echo signature detected. Hybrid confirmed. Unlocking command files. Zira walked to the center, where a hologram began to form. It wasn't just data. It was her, a younger version, dressed in Earth tech armor, eyes full of purpose. This was the original Zira, the one who had died, yet lived on. The hologram spoke. If you're hearing this, then I am no longer me. But you are more than I ever was. Zira stood frozen, heart racing. The hologram continued. This ship contains the last plan to save Earthkind. Not by fighting, but by remembering who we were. We placed our hope inside you, Zira. Not as a weapon, but as a seed. Eli stepped beside her, whispering, You were never meant to destroy, Zira. You were meant to bring life back. Suddenly, the ship shook violently. Warning alarms flared and red lights blinked across the control room. Multiple Varelian dropships approaching. The ship's system announced, Time to breach. 4 minutes. Zira clenched her fists. They followed us again. Eli pulled out a small data drive. We can't let them find this place. If they destroy this ship, the Ark core is gone forever. Zira turned to the glowing platform, the hologram still staring at her. She stepped forward and placed her hand on the core. Energy surged through her body. The ship connected to her, and in that moment, she felt it all. All the lost memories, the voices of children who never got to grow up, the hopes of scientists who died praying someone would survive, the love of a people who still believed in humanity. It was overwhelming. But she didn't pull back. She let it in. She became it. Zira, Eli called. We have to go. She turned to him, but her voice was different now, calmer. Older. No, she said. We're not running this time. She walked to the console and tapped a glowing icon. The ship powered up, shields forming over the ice again. Weapons unlocked, though she didn't want to use them, but she would. If she had to, if they come for us, she said. We show them what humanity really is. Not fear, not weakness, but memory and choice outside. The sky burned with approaching ships, but deep beneath the ice, Zira had awakened something far stronger than fire. She had awakened the truth. Zira stood motionless in the control room, her hand still pressed against the ship's core, but her mind wasn't fully hers anymore. The Ark had opened something deeper than memory. It had touched the second layer, the hidden layer, the one no one had warned her about. Zira, Eli said, cautiously stepping closer. Are you all right? She blinked. Slowly, her pupils glowed a brighter shade of blue now, almost white. But when she finally spoke, her voice sounded like two voices layered together. I am, she said, then paused. We are. Eli froze. That wasn't her, not fully inside her head. Zira was fighting for control. Something else had awakened with the Ark core, something built into her DNA from the start. Not a memory, not a message, but a presence. Who are you? She whispered to the voice inside her mind, and the voice answered, calm and commanding. I am the part of you made to survive, it said. When emotions fail, I remain. Zira clutched her head, stumbling back from the console. No. She whispered, I'm not just a program. You're not, the voice agreed. You're the key, but keys only matter if they open something. Eli moved toward her, slowly. What's happening to you? He asked. She turned to him, and for a moment, her face changed harder, colder, like a mask of who she used to be. There's something inside me, she said. A second mind, not human, not Varelian. It's ancient. Eli's eyes widened. I read about it once, he said. A theory from the first lab team. They called it a silent core, a fail-safe personality, meant to activate only if the host was in danger. Zara's hands were shaking now, her skin flickering. Between soft glow and static pulse, I thought I was made to protect humanity, she said. But maybe I was made to replace it. Outside, the Varelian ships were landing on the ice above, soldiers preparing to breach. They had no idea what was waiting below. The ship's voice echoed in the chamber. Hybrid destabilization detected. Sync ratio dropping. I can't hold it back, Zara said. I can feel it thinking, planning. It's not evil, but it doesn't care about life. It only cares about survival. Eli stepped in front of her. Then let's give you something worth surviving for. He said, you're not alone, not anymore. She looked at him, her expression torn between two minds. One side wanted to trust, to feel. The other side calculated escape, advantage, power. And then the worst part came. The inner voice began, speaking through her lips, not with permission, but with force. I am no longer sleeping, the voice said. And I will not go back. Zara collapsed to her knees, fighting to stay in control. I won't let you take me, she whispered. I won't let you become me. Inside her mind, she saw a version of herself dressed in armor made of light, her face without emotion, a perfect soldier, built from Earth's fear, not hope. You're just a backup plan, Zara said. The silent core replied. And you're just a face they gave me, back in the physical world. Eli pulled something from his pack, a small glowing shard. The anchor, he said, a memory stabilizer. Your father left it for you before he died. Zara looked up, stunned. My father? Eli nodded. He worked on the Ark project. He knew this might happen. He believed that love could anchor the human side of your mind. He pressed the shard to her chest. Zara screamed, not in pain, but in release. The light inside her surged, burning away the cold logic, even just for a moment. And in that moment, she remembered being held, not in a lab, not in armor, but in arms, real arms, human arms. Her father's voice saying, you are not a weapon. She opened her eyes. The glow had dimmed, but it was stable. The second mind was still there, still waiting, but for now she was in control. The ship's system spoke again. Warning. Enemy forces breaching outer ice layer. Zara stood, stronger than before. I don't know how long I can hold it off, she said. But I'll use every second of myself while I still can. Eli smiled faintly. That's all humanity ever needed. They turned toward the blast doors as the alarms blared louder. Above them, the enemy was coming. But inside her, the storm had already begun. And she was ready to face it, both outside and within. The ice above cracked like thunder. The sky split open, pouring down ships like falling blades. Varelian strike teams descended with no warning, no mercy, and deep beneath them, in the heart of the hidden ship, Zara stood still, eyes closed, arms loose, heartbeat steady. But she wasn't calm. She was choosing, inside her mind. Two voices waited. One was hers, full of fear, courage, and questions. The other was the core, cold, precise, always calculating. It spoke now like a shadow, leaning over her shoulder. They will kill you, it said. Let me take control, and we both survive. Zara opened her eyes. The glow was gone. Only calm silence remained, not because the storm was over, but because she had made peace with it. You're not my enemy, she whispered to the voice. Inside, you were just made for the worst part of me. Above, the enemy breached the outer walls of the ship. Boots thundered down steel corridors, weapons charged. Eli stood beside Zara, ready though trembling. Whatever happens, he said. You've already changed everything. She turned to him. No, she said, not yet, with a wave of her hand. The ship responded. Panels opened, walls shifted, the Ark came alive not as a war machine, but as a memory, a living monument to what humanity had been. As the first group of Varelian soldiers reached the control room, they froze. Zara wasn't holding a weapon. She was holding a memory crystal, glowing softly in her hands, and behind her, the holograms began to play. Thousands of them, faces, voices, laughter, songs. Children laughing, scientists dreaming, families saying goodbye as Earth fell. The soldiers didn't fire, they stared, silent. One of them lowered his weapon. "Is this real?" he asked. A child's voice echoed from the ship. "I want to be a painter when I grow up." Another soldier dropped to one knee, then another, because even after war, truth can be louder than fear. But then, the commander arrived, tall, armored. Ruthless, he didn't hesitate. He raised his weapon at Eli. "Step away from her," he shouted. "That creature is not one of us." Zira moved without thinking. She stepped between them, arms outstretched. "I'm not one of you," she said. "I'm not one of them either. I'm both, and I am done choosing." The commander fired, but the bullet never hit. It stopped midair, frozen in blue light. Zira floated off the ground, not rising in power, but rising in decision. The voice inside her, the core, spoke again. "I can destroy them." "No," Zara replied. "You will help me show them," and for the first time, the two became one. Her body pulsed with both memory and mind. Not just human, not just Varelian, but something new, something built from both fire and hope. Zara turned to the stunned soldiers. "I am what your war feared most," she said, "not a weapon, but a choice." She handed the memory crystal to the Varelian commander. "See for yourself." He took it, hands shaking, as it played. His knees buckled. He saw what they were never told, what had been erased, hidden, rewritten. The room fell quiet. Even the ship dimmed its lights. As if giving space to grief, Zira stepped back beside Eli, her glow fading, her power pulling inward again. "What now?" Eli asked softly. She looked up. "We let them decide, outside." The Varelian fleet hovered in silence. Inside, enemies became listeners, and the war paused, not with a battle, but with a memory. The voice of a small girl echoed again through the ship. "If we forget who we were, we won't know who to become." Zira closed her eyes. She wasn't a weapon. She wasn't a mistake. She was a bridge. And today she carried both past and future, together.